Hello, I'm Chris Claremont, and I freaking love freaking comics. You got a problem with that?
Yo, my name is Donnie Cates, and I know the brand is I freaking love comics, but I fucking love comics.
Comics, movies, TV, video games, anime, your powers combined. I freaking love comics.
Live with Judah and Robo.
What's up, IFLC fans? This is Judah Rad. I'm here with Robo and Ree, and we have a very special show today. I'm honored to say that we have Matt Barlow as our guest. He's sung for Iced Earth, Pyramaze, and Ashes of Ares, and excuse me if I'm a little bit starstruck. I've been a fan for a very long time. Just think of 13-year-old Judah back in 1998 going to the Tower Records and getting the album Something Wicked This Way Comes. And I had it on CD. I probably listened to it 5 billion times.
Okay, so did you just say that to make me feel old, man?
No. No,
Way to go, Judah.
It's timeless. But hey, Matt, it's really great having you on the show. So we're a comic book podcast, and so we're going to be revisiting 1996's Dark Saga, since it is a concept album about Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which we are big fans of, in addition to being big Iced Earth fans. So I'm going to kind of kick it off. Matt, what does the Dark Saga mean to you?
So Dark Saga to me is obviously a couple things. To me, I think it's one of the things that really, one of the records that really helped Iced Earth kind of become known. In with that as well, it helped me become a little well known throughout the musical realm, because it was one of those. It was the record, I think, that started kind of Iced Earth being recognized as sort of, I guess mainstream metal. I don't know, but it was definitely a big boost for the band. Especially coming off of Burnt Offerings, which was my first record, which I always hold a dear place in my heart. But it was definitely that was definitely a darker record, and it was more along the lines what Iced Earth had been doing before. Obviously, John's known for his galloping, triplets and stuff like that, which is, a signature sound for John.
That dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm the third singer in the group. So obviously that had changed. I was still getting my legs underneath of me, and I was still going with somewhat of what a sound that I had before, which I was, I'd worked on in other bands that I was in, like Cauldron with my brother. But it was sort of like I was still working on getting my sound. So Dark Saga was only my second studio album, and I had really done a lot of work between Burnt Offerings and the Dark Saga on kind of getting my sound and what I wanted to sound like, and also John determining how he was going to write music for my voice. And it was just a kind of a sweet culmination of things. John being inspired by Spawn, and kind of a funny story. I like collecting toys and things like that, and I have, for ever since I could afford to buy them myself as an adult. And I had gone out to it was Christmas, the Christmas maybe before that, and I'd gone out and gotten all the guys in the band toys for Christmas, because I'm kind of kid like that. So I had gotten John a Batman character, because John was a really huge Batman fan, which we share that love as well. But I had also gotten some McFarlane stuff for the other guys in the band. Well, as soon as, when John opened up his toy, and then he's looking over at the other guys, he's like, "What is that?" And I said,
it's like White Elephant.
Spawn.
I want that one.
Explain the story. So that was John's introduction to Spawn, and then he just got consumed which if you know John, you know he goes all head on into everything. So as soon as he got like hooked on Spawn, he bought like every comic, got into the whole thing, the whole concept, and just started like basically said, "Hey, I've got this idea. This would be an awesome concept." And he just started writing. And the writing, I mean, it seemed like at the time that the writing was just he was just a monster at it. And that, again, that's another John thing. He's very much, when he's all in, he's all in. And so the record was really written very, very quickly. But it just shows you that passion whenever you get something that's really that cool and interesting. And for the time, it really was. McFarlane really touched on something at that time, and through his work with other stuff, other dark characters and things like that. I'm sure like Venom and all that, he was inspired. And I don't know the backstory. I don't know how long he had been holding on to these characters, but it was just a really cool introduction to the thing. So
that's awesome.
We had actually gone and kind of befriended. I can't remember the time. Pardon me. I can't remember the timeline because again, 20 some years ago. But we had contacted. I think John and I had gone to like some Comic Cons or something like that. We had made contact with Al Simmons, who is, Todd's best friend from college, and the namesake of Spawn. And he was actually going to promote. He was promoting the stuff. He was promoting the comic and everything at the Comic Cons. He's dressed up like Spawn and the whole 9 yards. So it was pretty cool. It was great, getting to know Al. And we had set up something with Todd about, because we really wanted to get his blessing on using some of his art. And basically went out to Arizona. We went to Phoenix and talked to Todd, and of course Al was there and kind of walking us through it and everything else. Can't remember. Todd had a manager, and I can't remember. I think his name was Terry or something. Terry wasn't as hip to us, I don't think. But and I don't know if he's still working with Todd or not, but it just worked out. So Todd basically said, "Okay, hey, I'm going to give you this artwork to use for the record," and I think it was for Spawn 50, or it was an alternate cover for Spawn 50 or something.
Right.
So that was cool. I mean, it couldn't have worked out better. The artwork was brilliant. It was what a metal record needs. Lots of flash and color and kind of scary elements and things like that. So It was perfect. I think it was better. We'd actually done some mock-ups. John had taken some stuff, I think, from Spawn 1, and done some mock-up stuff to just show what it would look like with our logo and things like that. And he was like, "Yeah, cool. That's all good, but I'll let you do this." And so it was great. And
Awesome.
it didn't go as far as we wanted it to do, because we had a lot of ideas. There was actually even an idea we were talking about with Al about doing like a CD like a CD single inside like the figures. So, and have a little book and kind of just at least have like the single, maybe have two tracks on it or something like that. Yeah. But that never panned out. It would have been great.
That would have been awesome.
We would have been platinum record stars, but that never worked out. I'm sure we could have sold a lot of toys like that, and consequently sold some records. But it would have been cool, but it didn't work out.
Awesome.
But I'll tell you what. One of the cool things, the fans that got to see us on tour, especially in the U.S. I think we took some over to Europe as well. But we had, as promo, we had actually bought up a whole lot of the characters, the Spawn figures, and took them on tour. So when we were on tour, we were like zinging them out to fans and stuff.
Yes.
That
was
was
a cool experience. That would be.
That was pretty neat. So I don't think we took off anybody's head or anything doing that, but it's kind of nice.
It only makes it funniar if you did. So in my head, it definitely got somebody.
Yeah, you see the star, man.
Yeah. Matt Barlow paints me in the head with the violator.
That's right. It's the violator.
So speaking of working with John, so you guys were both inspired. It sounds like you kind of gave him the idea, which is kind of awesome. Something I definitely didn't know. When it came to the actual writing process, did you guys collaborate? or does he kind of?
No. We did on a couple songs. There were a couple of things that John said, hey, because we're really going off of the concept. So we were trying to pick obviously characters and things like that, and certain things. Like Last Laugh, was one that John was like, hey, let's go with this idea, and he was talking about, now I'm losing the characters. Malbolgia, yeah, there you go. Thank you. So Malbolgia, he wanted to do a song about Malbolgia, so there was that. So some of the lyrics he let me roll with. Obviously, John was writing all the music, and like I said, it was like he was like a maniac with it. It was just like he knew exactly what sound needed to be with what character and things like that, and he just wanted to roll with it. So John did the lion's share of the writing for the record, without a doubt. It was cool. It got nice when we got to when we were doing the studio, because I got to do some interpretation as far as how I was going to deliver things and whatnot. So that was cool, and that's always been cool. John's always really trusted me as far as my soulfulness on certain things and the way that things should be kind of delivered. So that was great, and that's the fun part about it for me anyway. Lyrics are cool. It's fun to write lyrics and to write songs like that, and I've always loved doing that, and I will continue to. But really, my thing is delivering the things with feeling and delivering them with what they need for the particular song, and changing characters. Like, it's great to be able to do like Question of Heaven and then do a song like Violate. So I'm changing characters and changing just the way I'm delivering the song all together, because I think that's really important. It's like changing an instrument.
Like that's the thing about you as a singer, Matt. You're like 3 singers in one. You're probably the most dynamic metal singer ever. I mean, just the changes and the operatic with the harsh delivery, and it's awesome. It's perfect for that kind of album.
That's cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like to try to bring whatever character it is to life. A lot of my characters are obviously evil, demented people and things, creatures and whatnot. So that works out well for me. But it's also fun to also really give that feeling and the heart that needs to be there in whatever song it is. If it's a ballad, and I try to spend less time on what does Matt sound like, or what is. I really try to kind of take it as if I'm an actor and I'm portraying a character, and I do the same thing. I do the same thing in live performance, because that's not really me up there on stage. That's another character. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Nice.
So I went through like a System of a Down phase, and like my experience with Metallica. Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot. And then like the Metallica I know is from whatever played in the 90s on MTV. So as a dude who doesn't really listen to metal, try as Judah might. But what would you say, like, if you were to be like, all right, if you're going to get into metal, start with this album? I mean, aside from Iced Earth, because that's obviously the album to start with, but what would you say?
Oh, so which Iced Earth record would you say is
in general, like, so metal in general, like, he's like, if you want to like get into metal, start with this album.
Wow. That's really tough, man. That's a because I'm like thinking so many great things. I mean, if you're talking about the introduction and the godfathers of metal, I mean, I would say Black Sabbath. That was kind of it. But then there's so many. I don't know, man. It's a beautiful thing about the genre is that there's so many different experiences, and different people are going to have different vibes off of everything. Like, obviously, Black Sabbath is more doomy. So that's definitely the darker doomy, and it was really before you started getting into what I consider technical play, and if you're talking about technical stuff and getting a little bit more finger working guitar, Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or something like that. Then you got
any of those big bands. Just I can't go wrong, huh?
Yeah, that's I would say, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I you can't really go wrong with the classics, man. And there's a reason. And talking about you were talking about Metallica. There are a lot of people that hate on Metallica and because they changed and all this, but they're still Metallica, man. At the end of the day, they still wrote killer songs and write killer songs.
Yeah.
The last record was really very good.
Awesome.
You don't
Hardwired.
know this, but inside Judah is just like his love for you has grown.
Oh yeah, I've never
yeah,
seen him fangirl
twofold,
so hard
yeah.
in my life.
I'm also a very large Metallica fan.
But that
so.
but that defense of Metallica you did just kind of like it welled up. So that yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Robo, I know you got another question, but I have to ask Matt. What was the
Yeah.
first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh boy, first album I bought with my own money. I think it may have I think it may have been Rush, Grace Under Pressure.
Oh yes.
Oh, nice.
I was fortunate enough. I was fortunate really to have an older brother that bought a lot of records and a lot of the heavier stuff early on. So I didn't. I had a lot of cool stuff. I had Metallica and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, but I just for whatever reason like Rush, and it's still one of my favorite records. Like Grace Under Pressure just has some really really cool songs on it. And I know it's sort of like that techno, prog rock meets techno kind of a sound, but there's just some really cool songs on it, and that was one of the things that my brother had bought Moving Pictures, and I absolutely loved that record, and that's how I kind of got into the Rush thing.
Nice.
But I think that was reaching a little too techno for him, and so he wasn't really into that record so much. So I was like, well, I'm gonna buy it, so that's
Nice.
Sick.
So going back to Dark Saga, was any of the like songs in there? So you sing it, you get your deal, you get your music sheet, you do the performance, and like, all right, cool, that's a wrap, that was awesome, and then you do the next track. Was there any track that you were like, that was fucking awesome? Like, what is your favorite track on Dark Saga?
I would say, and because I think we didn't go through them like as they appear, but there were certain songs obviously we took. I think we had to take more care on and really really concentrate on them to get the right vibe, and obviously one of the probably the one that I ended up being like one of our last ones, because we had my sister-in-law actually do a lot of the operatic parts. The angels singing, in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I think, and then we added after we did, those bits. Then we added like what we call scats, where I'm up there singing and I'm hitting all the high notes at the end and whatnot. But like Question of Heaven, so that was one of those ones where it was like final putting the cherry on top of it and just laying it all out there. And that's definitely one of the ones that I think is, for me, one of the ones that we really we really kind of cherished and carried across the finish line.
Nice.
And I think it shows in the recording of it. And that's you're going to find that, especially if you're recording the stuff, you kind of know which songs took a little more care. We weren't, not like we're rushing in, but at the same time we are. At that point, we're an indie band. We're not spending a lot of time. We don't have big budgets to do this. And I've actually never worked on a record where I've had a huge budget where we could just sit back and rest. Usually records that I work on, I'm done in like 6-7 days. That's it. That's all.
Wow.
That's all the time we got
For the entire album.
Yeah, I mean,
Holy shit.
for I'm going to say for vocals, and that's going in. So you've got a full length record, trying to knock out at least 2 songs a day. And I know people go, well, why don't you just go in there and sing it? It's a little bit more than that. We're trying to, we're going for perfection. And sometimes especially if you don't have a lot of pre-production, which Dark Saga had we're literally coming off of, I think Dark Saga was the first one that Iced Earth had ever done without 2-inch tape. So that we're talking about going from an analog to a digital era. Like
Oh wow.
the Burn Offerings was all recorded on 2-inch tape. So it was recorded in analog and then gone. So again, I think Dark Saga was the first one that we did completely digital. So we didn't have the luxury that I have now. Like I can go out in my studio and lay out a song and do all kind of pre-production and stuff and have it laid out so I know exactly what I'm doing in each part. You know, when we were going in the studio, we had an idea of what we were going to do with harmonies and things like that, but we were doing them on the fly, you know.
Wow.
Recording
I
them.
can't.
So I'm like doing main lines and then I'm going back in and doing, you know, harmonies and all this other stuff. And so it's a lot of work. I mean, it's really, really a lot of work. And so, but the, you know, full productions back then were maybe 3 weeks, you know, so again, not a lot of time for like the entire band. You know, drummer comes in, got to nail everything, you know, then you got, you know, which we had Prater on that record. And so he, you know, he nailed it, for drums. And then, you know, John's a beast, man. He'll just go in there and he just kills it, you know, rhythm wise. He goes in there and just knocks out everything.
Such a distinct style.
And then that's kind of how I am though. So like it takes about like 20 minutes to get from my house to my job, and I could probably knock out about a good like 10 songs in that time. So I understand. I totally get it.
Nice.
You know, we're just casually making amazing.
Yeah, and I'm just
music.
like gotta get it right, and I'll start the track. Oh, no, I could do better.
Right.
Hey, you mentioned Rush, Matt, and I love that. So I'm a big fan of concept albums because I like sitting there for an hour or an hour and a half and just hearing this story being told to me through music for that time. So I loved their 2112 album. But I'm curious, with your Ashes to Aries, are you interested in doing any comic book concepts for that band, or do you have any other projects that we should know about going into the future?
We did. We haven't done any concept records or anything, but we've done a couple on Ashes. We've done 2 songs already that are comic related, which, you know, I never say, hey, this is whatever, but most people figure it out. Like on the first record, we did a song about the Punisher, and then on the second record, we did one about Superman. So,
all right,
that's awesome.
So the first song is Punishment, and then the second one is The Alien,
that's amazing.
the Superman song. And a lot of people were like, is he singing about Jesus? And if anybody actually understands where Superman came from,
that's right.
heavily inspired by Christ, and that, you know, it's putting a more physical form rather than he's saving your soul, he's saving you physically. You know, he's saving you by, you know, actual physical brute strength and, you know, and things like that, and morality. You know, but there's still that moral concept, which is why Superman's the big Boy Scout. So whenever I was writing the song, I sort of intended to do it that way because I wanted to pay tribute not only to the character but also to the writers who actually have, you know, it's been said that this is what they were kind of going for. They were going for a Messiah kind of a concept when they were writing Superman. So I thought it was cool, and it was really cool that I confused people, you know, to begin with.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
When you get alternate meanings, that's awesome. Is there anyone? I'm just curious if you have. So you've written about Spawn, you've written about Punisher, you've written about Superman. Are there any comic book characters you would like to write a song about, or sing a song about?
Well, so I'm gonna you know, kind of
yes.
be obvious, but not too obvious.
Nice.
But you know, a character like that, and it's not to say that these other characters don't deserve, you know, but if you're gonna bite off something like this, you really got to do it with a lot of care, you know, and it means a lot to so many people. You know, Batman is definitely a big influence. I mean, it's amazing to me that there are so many people that relate more probably to Batman than any other character, and I think the reason being is because we all want to at some time just be that regular guy with $1 billion, but be that regular guy or gal that just can go out
things
and
into their own hands.
You want to be able to do that sometimes, and I get it. I think everybody understands that. You know, boy, wouldn't it be nice if I could just do this, take care of the problem myself.
Yep.
But Matt, how metal is Silver Surfer and Galactus?
Call me after.
Pitching.
I got a pitch for you.
I think so. I think Silver Surfer could be done really, really well. Actually, and I had actually sort of considered doing that. I was writing a song which ended up being the song "Time Traveler," which took a totally different approach. I took a totally different idea with it. But when I was writing that, I was actually kind of thinking of that character while doing that, if that makes sense. Because I often do that. Like if I'm writing something, especially if it's just whatever it is, whether it's a little guitar lick or something that I'm doing, or whether it's a melody, vocal melody, or something like that. I just sometimes I think of these characters, probably because they are kind of the way that I look at comics is sort of like a new mythology, and I absolutely love that there are so many writers that are and so many comic book writers that are influenced by obviously mythology and things like that, but also influenced by other comic book work in the past. And so and I feel the same way as a musician. I obviously try to take my influences from other musicians and other genre or people within my genre. I do it for both. I mean, I'll take inspiration from whatever genre as long as it works and is inspiring, because obviously that's what we want. We want to be, we want to have sort of that muse and utilize that and make it something unique and something that stands on its own, but also be a tribute to those things that inspire us. So I think it's really cool to see that. I love seeing that in comics and in books and things like that. But I also I kind of relate that, and I tend to relate that kind of stuff. I am also inspired outside of music by things that I read, or characters, or just concepts and things like that. And that's
it makes it so
really
interesting for us to listen to. Like, so you've done a bit of touring. I wanted to see if you had any cool stories from the road, and I know you've told us about throwing toys out at people. But are there any that spring to mind when you think about I don't know, the last time you were sort of running around? Any weird stuff that happened while you're out and about?
That won't get you fired.
That won't get you fired.
Yeah, no. That's kind of the funny thing about that. Besides, maybe a little too much to drink on the road. I've never really done anything that was kind of outside of my comfort zone where that's concerned. So, and that includes including stuff that is untoured.
Sure.
So
yeah,
and this is another thing about for me. I got to say, when I got into music, it was rather late. So I'm late. So I'm like 24 years old when I finally get with a professional band, and this was something that I was really kind of gearing up to do, and so I really took it very, very seriously whenever I went out on the road. And I had also learned, from other past experience, and then talking with John about how things didn't go well for Gene or didn't go well for John Greeley and things like that on the road because of excess and all that. So I mean, I'm talking, I'm looking at John as a mentor as well as a bandmate at that point. So I'm really learning. And I've always done that. I have older brothers that I learned most of my life lessons from, them screwing up and doing things wrong. So I'm taking all this stuff and going, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I got to say, I guess I was pretty much a Boy Scout a lot when I was on tour. It was a lot of hydrating all day, going to sleep early so that I could get up and perform well. And I got to say, I've never missed a professional performance because of illness. Now I've gotten up there and I've done it, and I've been sick as a dog and I've sounded like shit, but I never missed a performance. So
that's rad.
So that's one of the things I can definitely hold up there and go, hey, this is pretty cool. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's the thing. The only thing I can say about touring, one of the some of the things were the best things were just hanging out with guys that you really like. And we did several tours with when in the early days in 96, 97, 98 with we toured with Nevermore because they were our label mates.
Awesome.
So I got to
nice.
meet. I got to hang out with Worrell and Van and Jim and Jeff Loomis and guys that are still friends, and those that are certainly that are with us still. But those are the memories that I hold dear because I got to actually spend time with those guys and really hang out and do that. And you learn a lot about people. Certainly jammed in a
for sure.
jammed in
I
a
can only
tube.
imagine. Yeah.
You learn what they smell like.
Yep.
It's not necessarily a good thing.
If they have nightmares, yep.
Yeah, you learn their little ins and outs. Well, one of the funniest things, man. You guys know Richard Christie, famous now for the Howard Stern show, but
Yep.
I knew everybody knew that Richard was bound for greatness in comedy because we all listened to like his tapes and things like that, because he would actually bring this stuff on tour, like tapes of what he did like back when he lived in Kansas, and he would crank call people and do all this stuff, and like it was like his version of Jerky Boys kind of stuff.
Wow.
And he would sit back in the lounge, their back lounge, listening to those all night, just laughing. And we would start out listening to him and laughing and having a couple drinks before we went to bed. But then everybody else is in bed and he's still back there, just laughing out loud, insanely at all these old comedy bits that he did. So he was bound for that. But that's a really cool thing, and that a lot of people probably didn't get to experience.
Yeah,
That's
really
great.
cool.
Richard Chris laughing at himself.
That's so funny.
Nice.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up my favorite Iced Earth moment, I guess. So my favorite album is always going to be the Burnt Offerings, but my favorite part of Burnt Offerings is at the end of Dante's Inferno when it's Lucifer. Like I love cranking that up. That is the best. Like, how do you make it through a 16-minute song like that where it just doesn't relent? It is relentless. That song. How do you like? Do you drink a lot of tea or what? How do you do that?
Strenuous, yeah.
You just take your time, and you got to look at it too of like if you've ever seen like the live performances of that. I mean, it's like 3 songs, so there's a lot of spots in there where there's a lot of space and things like that where music is going on. So I take a little break, I'll go off to the side, drink some water, while they're doing their thing, come back on. But that's cool. That's actually even in the recordings and in live, that was John and I kind of doing those together, so he's doing like the really raspy stuff, and I'm keeping more of like a lower baritone shouting kind of bit. But yeah, that's a cool one. But we, the thing about doing that is any kind of live performance. For me, I've got to pace myself and know where where I need to take breaks and things like that, and that's just usually through doing it. Practicing it. If you've got a song layout, you try to do your song list as you're going to do it. When you're practicing, so then when you can take your breaks and do all this other stuff. When we were out promoting the horror show record, we did a 3-set tour. It was so we had no opening acts, and we did 3 individual sets. So we did like the first set was the early Iced Earth stuff. It was like Iced Earth, up
Storm Rider,
Burnt Offerings, and then the next one was Dark Saga through something. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Dark Saga through Something Wicked, I guess, and then horror show. Then the last set was all horror show. So it was like, it was essentially a 3-hour show.
Wow.
But we had some breaks. We did have breaks in between as they were changing sets and things like that. But for something like that, you really kind of have to learn to pace yourself. And yeah, there was there's some hot tea on the side there waiting for you or whatever, in between. But we also had to, between sets, we were going back and we were changing out costumes and things like that. Yes, we had costumes, but
Nice.
we were going for a full vibe. We wanted people to feel like the first set, we're all in like denim, and then the second set, I'm like, got black leather, and then the third set I think was black leather too. I don't know, but anyway. So, but we had kind of distinctive different things for each set. But yeah, something like that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of pre-planning, and we were able to do that. I think we got over to when we did it. We did that in Europe exclusively because we could. Here we couldn't do something like that. It wouldn't have been possible. But when we were over there, I think we went over like a week early, and then we did the sets, the setups, because we had to have a bigger crew to be able to change sets in between and all that other good stuff. But it was a big production deal.
That's rad. I think you've just hit the nail on the head for what we need. We need some costume changes in our podcast.
Yes.
That would spice it up. Get some we'll get some matching denim.
So Matt, with the Pyramaze and the Ashes of Ares stuff, are there any songs in particular that draw from that you've written that draw more from your personal life, or anything that specifically personal to you?
Boy, that's a good one. Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, the thing is, I think I'm inspired certainly by things in my life, although I don't typically like to. I sort of I like to use music as sort of an escape. So a lot of times the things that I write about are things that I just want to escape and do other things. So I'm not necessarily inspired. Inspired. Yeah. So sorry, my wife is commenting on the side.
What did she say? She's other
what'd
songs about her.
Yeah, she's saying that I've written several songs about her.
Nice.
What punishment?
Nice.
Punishment.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'll get to that one.
Okay.
No, so as far as my personal stuff. Okay, so on Ashes of Ares, the first record, I did write a song called "On Warrior's Wings," which is dedicated to a partner of mine who was killed in the line of duty. So it was, it's not necessarily about him, but certainly inspired by him and by that particular time in my life. So there is certainly that. On this last record, I wrote a song called "Time Traveler," which is not actually about a time traveler, but it's about my kids. So because we're mortal and we can't travel through time, the only way that we can actually do that physically is through our children. And so that's kind of the concept with that. And I like that. So anyway, and yeah, until we can figure out another way to survive as beings. I'm sure there are some beings out there that are probably beyond this whole physical thing and dimensional thing, but that we're dealing with here. But until we figure that out, we'll
have kids.
Have kids.
Oh, Robo, you kind of missed it before, but we were touching on. I asked Matt if he had a comic collection, and we started talking about movies.
He said Marvel Cinematic. I got you all right here. So all that shit you were talking, I heard it. But are you doing anything else as far as like nerd wise? Like you say, Marvel. She said not Marvel, but cinematic universe type stuff that you're collecting. Like, explain that. What do you mean by that? Like the actual hard media?
Yeah, because I'm a hard media guy. I have trouble. Heather's trying to get me to finally start buying digital. I just don't trust it because I can't put my hands on it. I'm right. I'm just too old school on that, and I'm just like, well, yeah, but what happens when what happens when the cloud goes away? What happens when the cloud starts raining and all my media is gone? So
the end times.
It's actually happened. We've seen DRMs. I think they're called, right, the digital rights media. Yeah, where the company who gave it to you and you bought $20 for this movie went out of business and the movie's gone.
Right. Yeah.
So it's definitely already happened. Yeah.
I mean, I understand that in life we're all just basically here renting, through life. But I want to at least feel as though I own something and I can pass something on at some point. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel so. If you want to see, I'll just turn this and you can see my
Oh, shit.
Wow.
rather large library.
nice.
here
What a
of
flex.
stuff.
Nice.
That is
He's like, no big deal. Here's my entire wall of hard media. So when the
Yeah,
cloud
well,
goes away,
and that's not it. That's not it, man. I've actually run out of space. I'd have to have another one that size because
Oh,
I've got
wow.
I've got stuff, and we sort of go through kind of mixing out the media, and like the kid oriented DVDs and Blu-ray, they're in the kids room. So, and then
Sure.
we've got other stuff. We've got the my wife's rom-coms down in another area. So it's easier access, so we can kind of skip through. Okay, we know rom-coms are here, and then we can do this.
and you don't
Nice.
want to do any cross contamination with that. My dog is going nuts today.
Exactly. So we all feel better about it. Oh, can I just take a minute and say this real quick?
Sure.
Release the Snyder Cut, please.
So it was announced today. It's gonna happen. So,
Awesome. What
Zack,
is it? HBO Max?
Yes, yeah.
Yep, HBO Max.
So Zack Snyder did a live watch party this morning, and if you have Man of Steel, then you are gonna go onto this app. You play yours when he plays his, and then he does commentary. And apparently this morning he announced that the Snyder Cut will come out on HBO Max. So
That's awesome. So how long am I going? Because I can't afford to buy another streaming platform. So how long is it going to be before it's on hard media?
That's a good
I got
question.
20. Oh, the Snyder Cut. Yeah, good question. Yeah, but it's not going to come on HBO Max. Somebody said something 2022 or 2023. So,
It's gonna be a while, but
which
it's
just
definitely
tells
gonna
me
happen.
that even though it comes, so I'm one of the ones, full disclosure, that have been like, it doesn't exist. Stop. And then you know, and then we have fun on the internet back and forth. But then he drops. I'm like, okay, I'm silly. I guess it does exist. And then they go, and it's gonna be out 2023. I'm like, did it really exist then? You're taking the next 3 years. You know?
Well, I think it's a matter of I figured something had to have existed since they did so many different changes and reshoots, and taking Henry Cavill and redoing his face and all that, which I didn't think
weird.
was terrible. Everybody was pointing at it and going, "Look how
I didn't
stupid
care
he looks."
either. Yeah, I didn't.
But-
It's whatever.
But I did know something was wrong, and I understood after watching the Batman v Superman director's cut how much studios can jack things up, and I've known it for a long time. But
Sure.
I'm sorry, the theatrical version of Batman v Superman and the director's cut are almost two different movies.
Yes.
And it
I would
disturbs
agree.
me. It's like they cut out so much of the heart of what that movie was, and I would urge anybody to go back and watch it again. Also, go back and watch Man of Steel again, and understand how much heart are actually in those, movies. There's a ton of heart in them, and
Ton of abs.
and people that's correct. Lots of heart and lots of abs. I think if people could kind of step away from being so cynical and just looking for I'm not knocking Marvel Cinematic Universe at all, but they have a certain pattern and a certain method and certain delivery of things. It usually goes with action comedy, action comedy, a little bit of heart,
Formulaic,
action,
yeah.
action, and so that's their form. That's their form. That's how they do it. They're formulaic in that respect. But I think that DC had a different thing going on and has a different thing going on, and that's even in Wonder Woman and Aquaman. There's still a different thing. Aquaman got a little more Marvel-y with their approach, but I think Wonder Woman is killer, and it has its own own vibe, and it stands on its own, and it doesn't need to be explained as hey, this is a different universe. By the way, this is not Marvel stuff. It's its own thing. And I think if WB actually stood behind their creators a little bit more, I think they'd really reap the benefit of it. They just need to get out of their way. Get out of Zach's way. Let him do his job. So,
It'd be nice to see like a DC universe where there's like 20 movies like Marvel, and it tells one big, huge story at the end, kind of like Endgame. Like that's something I've always kind of wanted to see. Like Dark Side at the very end, and it's massive, awesome, epic. So
Yeah.
who knows?
It would be, and unfortunately, I think to do that, they're probably going to have to. They'd almost have to reboot and start over again. I mean, I think they got the they got the cart. They kind of put the cart before the horse because they were trying so hard to get it done and get to the end where they've got a big, because they were like competing with Marvel. They should have just said, hey, we're not going to compete. We're going to bring in these characters one at a time. Just take it, and we'll just be a decade behind Marvel. It's okay. By the time we get to our big finale, it's going to be huge, and it's going to crush Avengers, I think that's what they should have done. They should have just taken their time and introduced. I think they'd have perfect introduction of with Man of Steel for Superman. I think it was brilliant. I think even the people that, said Superman can't kill somebody. Well, you know what? For the greater good, I can take him snapping a neck. No problem. So, but I think it's just that whole thing. I think they were trying so hard to compete with Marvel that they just put the cart before the horse, and they should have just really concentrated on doing what Zach did with Superman, and just concentrated on the character, building that character, and then kind of going from there. But it is what it is, man.
They killed it with Christian Bale years ago with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
pretty awesome.
You need that singular vision. Hey, you can really tell as a viewer when it's being pulled in all directions by different behind the scenes bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. They never got on board. I mean, that's the one thing that Marvel has brilliantly, is that they've got it all together as far as, it starts from the top, and basically they said, hey, we're looking at this, and we're putting it out in a storyboard, and we're putting it on a wall, and this is where we're going to go. Now, they obviously left it so they can move things around a little bit, and there's some continuity issues with the with the MCU, but for the most part, they plugged all the holes, and I think that's an amazing thing. But working, if you're talking about letting comic creators do that, that's what they do, man. They work story arcs all day long. That's their job, because they're trying to sell books. They're trying to sell individual titles and link them all together. That's what comic companies do. And so I just don't think that Warner got that from DC. And I don't know that DC pushed enough. I think maybe they were all just trying to keep their jobs or something. And so they didn't push Warner Brothers enough and say, "Look, man, this is what we do. Leave us alone. Let us do what we do. Have one person over the entire thing, like Marvel does, that are trying to put these movies together in continuity. Because if you're going to do it that way, then you have to stick by it. Now, the alternate to that would be, screw that. Don't worry about continuity, because we're going to do these as completely separate titles,
standalone movies.
And that's maybe what they should have done. I had an idea a couple years ago, and if everybody would just listen to me for a minute, this would have worked. My concept was, okay, so we've got characters that we all know. We know their origin story. We don't have to rehash that anymore. We don't have to go back to origin story. Everybody knows who Batman is. Everybody knows what his origin is. So screw it. We don't need to do that. So each one, give one famous director, complete or director or production team, give them complete control over a storyline. Say, this is where we're going with it, but you go with this, and make a movie on that storyline. Let them have a villain or a couple villains with a storyline and go with it. And so we have different movies that have different directors with different visions and all this other stuff. And I think it would kill, man. I think it would be amazing. And say, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to release Batman movie 1 in this year, and then 2 years later we're going to have a completely different story, different actors, different characters. I mean, I think people would kill it. I think people would love it. I think they'd love the concept. Some people would like one more than another, of course. But at the end of the day, I think if you've got all these creative minds working together to do it, I think it would just be incredible.
Yeah.
And then when the JLA happens,
think of all the cool toys that we would get out of it too.
Oh,
yeah. The different,
yeah.
So you've got a toy collection, is my understanding. Do your kids have any interest in what you've got?
They don't know what I've got, because I don't show it to them.
Nice.
Secret toys.
I don't let
Don't touch my
hands get on my
toys.
stuff.
Amazing. I love that.
No, I'm just kidding. But They don't. They really don't. I mean, I've got a so in the back of my studio, I've got a kind of a designated area where I have all my stuff stored in bins. From my old stuff, like 20-year plus.
Cool.
So they don't really know. At some point, I've got to break it out and I got to re-inventory things. And so I think that'll be a treat for. I hope it is for them and me.
Yay.
To kind of go through this stuff together. They've got their own stuff at this point, their own interests, and we'll see how it goes.
Just be prepared.
That's it.
Because I've tried to do that, and I'm like, so my son's a teenager, he's 16. I'm like, I want to show you this, and I'm sharing this with you now. And he's like,
right.
This is stupid. No, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right. I'm going to share this with you, but don't touch it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, don't even look at it.
Yes.
Don't even look at it.
You know what? Never mind.
I love it.
I think my kids are going to be much much the same, and they really haven't been introduced to. I dare I say this, so I haven't really I haven't watched the Spawn cinematic movie with my guys because I'm not a huge fan of it. I gotta say that, which I really hate saying that, but I was pretty let down whenever.
Are you looking forward to the new one?
I am, because I hope it's going to be. I hope it's going to be awesome. I always have wanted and the HBO series. I'm a huge fan of. The animated.
What a great adaptation!
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
but I can't let my kids watch that yet.
That's
so
right,
they've never even really been introduced to Spawn because it's just kind of too graphic.
Oh yeah, it's
and
too
heavy.
much. Yeah,
and I sort of my wife and I we're really trying to kind of preserve our kids and let them be kids for a while.
Sure.
There'll be some stuff. We're just now sort of letting them start watching Aussie Man reviews, which is more language oriented.
Sure.
But it's still funny, and I can't not laugh at it. So,
right. but you're not allowed to say that. Damn it. No.
That's it.
Well, that's pretty much it. And they know. I mean, they get it. And just like what I did when I was a kid.
Right.
Hey. You can talk about this stuff among your friends when you're with your friends and all that other good stuff, just like I did. But whenever you're around mom and dad, don't use these kind of words.
Disrespect, yeah, for sure. Understood.
Right,
So,
makes sense.
Hey, speaking of Spawn, you mentioned, John, when you were making that album, read all of Spawn, and that is something that I would do. Did you do any similar prep? Like, did you read a bunch of Spawn comics when you were working on the album?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so even the stuff that I was working on, like I said, like Last Laugh, Vengeance is Mine. So yeah, Vengeance is Mine. So that was based on the Billy Kincaid kind of concept. So I really wanted to kind of get in deep with that. So I was really reading that trying to get in the concept, the mind space of Spawn as far as dealing with Billy Kincaid. And then also with Malbolgia character, so I was trying to get into that headspace when I was writing those lyrics, and so that's what you do. You've got a whole book here, literally of lyrical ideas or things that you can use for your lyrics. So obviously I'm going to do that, and so it's a tribute to Todd and his work as well. So.
Nice. I'm also curious if you had your pick. So you said you like Deadpool, but if you had your pick of an existing or upcoming comic book movie that you could do the soundtrack or the score for, or what would you pick?
Batman.
Ooh. How about the Spawn movie? That would be great.
Yeah, that would be dope.
You guys have any connections to Todd?
If we have Todd on the show, we'll definitely suggest that he
drop a name.
Yeah, we'll drop the name.
Please do that for me, will you? Say, hey, I'm sure you don't even remember these guys, Todd, but
I mean, he has to have
an entire album based off of your books. No way, he has to know who you are.
Yeah, he has to know.
Yes.
Yeah, he does. I mean, we actually met him and all that for sure,
awesome.
but it was a long time ago, and I'm sure that Todd's had other things in his life since then. So.
He is busy.
Busy man. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, we were pretty dedicated to the cause and supporting him and spreading the message. So
that's awesome. So he probably owes you a little bit, huh?
Well,
like to do the soundtrack for his movie. We'll get that out there. We're gonna start a petition. So.
Change.org. Love it.
So here's the deal. So me, I've kind of lived my life, especially dudes in the military, and I'm sure in your profession as well, where, especially in the age I grew up in. I'm 30 now. I'll be 40 this year. So like a lot of times you find people have like hid their nerd a little bit as they grew up. And, you kind of like... And some people did, some people didn't. But you get some that are like, you read comics? Me too? Oh, shit. Okay, cool. And then you kind of let that out a little bit. And when you guys are this metal band, right? You guys tour, you guys like do rock and roll, right? And then you guys come out as... like, hey, we're gonna do one on Spawn, right? And so this is a comic book. Did you guys see like a different side of your fans, or a new set of fans that came in, or are they pretty much the same, one and the same?
I want to kind of say they're the same, man. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions. I think as far as what the world thinks of like metalheads. I think I've known metalheads for a long time, and I've never met any that were Satan worshiping whatever.
Sure.
Obviously there are some that have dabbled in the dark arts or whatever. I'm sure, but at the same time, those same people that are Satanists. I mean, I have friends that are Satanists, but they're just regular folks. They just have maybe just a little bit different belief structure. But primarily, it's the same, and they watch comic, or they read comics and watch the same movies and are inspired by the same stuff, and so it's not. I think that there's a lot more that like metalheads and comic nerds have in common than you would actually think, and it was not really a hard crossover.
Okay.
And it kind of falls in line with the thing. It's like, I'm sure that there are probably other folks that go, well, you're in the military. You listen to metal, whatever, same thing with the cop thing. It's like, you're a cop, but you listen to metal, and you're in a metal band, and yeah, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, folks are folks, and
that's right.
And
people are people. That's right.
We all have our interests and things like that, and there's, I think if we try to dig a little bit deeper as human beings to find our similarities, we wouldn't be concentrating so much on our differences, and that's certainly something right now that we can certainly preach. But
that's such a nice message.
I'm
so glad we got that out.
Unfortunately,
That's beautiful.
Unfortunately, we're all sort of stuck in this whole our differences thing at this point. So we need to get
stop the divide. I like it.
That's true.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
So, man, I just want to say thank you for coming on. This has been really cool. It's eye-opener for me. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not really like a metalhead or anything, but Judah calls me on the phone, and I was in the middle of something, and I end it because I'm like doing something. I'm like, yeah, I'll call you back. And then all of a sudden it rings again. And then I'm like, fuck. And then I look at it, and then he's like, he's gonna come on the show, and then I'm like, I look, and then he's like super like fanboy, so like he had to put all his he got his Iced Earth, his set of Iced Earth sex dolls. He pulled them out of the attic, and he's like flips them out. So it was all great.
wow.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
But honestly, seriously, hey, thank you for taking the time to come out. Thank you for the time to come out. It's been awesome talking with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll get you all the information.
Real man.
Yep.
Hey, just so I'm just wondering, are those Iced Earth sex dolls? Are those sanctioned by John Schaefer?
Oh, you're about to get sued.
No,
He wants a cut.
they're
I think
black
we're
market.
gonna need a cut of that, man.
Oh my god! Did we just pitch something to?
All right, Matt.
You never know.
Hey, you're welcome on anytime. Actually, we'll just close off with this one thing. Are you working on any projects that you would like your fans to know about? Anything in the future? Maybe you heard it here first kind of moment.
Well, definitely be looking for some new stuff probably by the end of the year. I can't really give away too much.
Okay.
I would like you guys didn't mention We Are Sentinels, though. I would like to promote that. That's another thing type of music that I'm been working on. It's not necessarily metal, but it's not necessarily not metal. With Jonah Weingarten. And
can we find this stuff on Spotify or Apple Music?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can find the stuff out there for sure. And if I think Jonah is actually still doing. So if you go, We Are Sentinels. If you like physical copy, I'm sure he's still got physical copy to sell, which would be great because that goes directly to Jonah. It's his baby, and I'm just here to promote it, and I'm just so yeah, definitely go check it out. I think it's definitely cool stuff if folks that are into comics and things like that. Oh, and it's not, again, you're not a metal fan, but this is not metal. You may dig it. It's very cinematic and feeling and things like that. So please check it out.
Awesome.
And the link will be included in the description for this video if anyone's interested. So definitely check out We Are Sentinels.
All right. Signing off.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt. Take care.
Ring the bell and be free. Follow our links and watch our show because you want to and not because of the threats. Thank you for watching Judah, Robo, and Ree. We talk about comics, movies, and TV. Sometimes we have notable guests, and sometimes it's just us. But we're also cool.